order right here. Please excuse the
you're good.
Me and then
incorrect name.
Dan.
Okay.
And Diane. Next
And
to
then
you.
Rebecca.
All right, good.
Rebecca after Diane. And then
Mallorie.
Malorie.
Frank.
And then this is Frank.
Yes, correct.
Here.
Correct.
Could make it.
Correct.
And then Bryan is the last one.
Yes. Does anyone need to look at the order?
It might be easier. I don't know how they're
The three ladies are in the middle.
I am chairman of the board of Strike 10 Entertainment, so if you don't want to say
I can have everybody's attention. Really excited about our next panel discussion. I'd like to introduce the participants. First off, our moderator for ESPN for a long time, architect of many of their franchises, such as College Game Day, built by the Home Depot, amongst other things. He's now the CEO of Fishbait, Rob Temple. Our first panelist, the Director of Consumer Marketing and Sponsorships from Allstate, Diane Keats. We need walk-up music for these guys. Girls. The Senior Integrated Marketing Leader, Kellanova Salty Snacks, Diane Sayler. Brand Manager of Mayo of Sauer Brands, Rebecca Lupesco. Chief Strategy Officer for Scooters Coffee, Malorie, Maddox. The President of the Bowling Proprietors Association of America, Frank Desocio. And lastly, the Senior Manager of Promotions and Partnerships for WK Kellogg, Bryan Fuller.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate everybody coming to El Paso, to beautiful El Paso. Should be a great session. Thrilled to have everybody here. Great start this morning with the presentation from ESPN. Also need to make sure we reflect the performance of the games on CBS, Fox, et cetera, but really good start to the day insights. Love the futures report. So perfect segue to our title sponsor panel and one presenting with Go Bowling and the Military Bowl. Great group here. I'm going to start by asking each of you a question just down the line here. Just a favorite story that you have from your association with your bowl game. So Dan, start with you. And also, by the way, 18 years? Ish?
With the Sugar Bowl? Yeah, 19, I think.
19,
Where's
close.
Jeff? Keep me honest. Right there. That's right. That's
So
right.
we experience, and we also have two.
Well, I want to start out on the wrong foot with you, Jeff, okay? So.
We also have two new sponsors as well, so you're going to get a full range today, which is great.
Favorite story? I mean, there's so many. However, years, I think it would probably be, us. What is it? I think one of our top competitor was in line to take the title sponsorship, State Farm, and we rallied the forces, and somehow our plane beat their plane down in New Orleans or something like that. There was all sorts of, I don't know, thunder and lightning and, waters rising and things like that. I don't know the Noah's Ark story. I wasn't totally there, but we kind of had 24 hours to decide if we were going to make a go or not of this. And, got all the way up to our chairman and got the green light, and we kind of got in before State Farm, inked the deal, and I think the rest is history. From there, we built the Allstate college football empire on the backs of getting our entitlement with the Sugar Bowl, so to speak. So, I mean, I think that's, to me, a great story because that's how it all began for us.
I love that. You also sort of block them out of college football.
That's what we do, yeah.
Stay out of your way. Yeah, that's good. As a former offensive lineman,
We
I
like to
that.
block, yes.
I like that. Diane, favorite story from your association with your games?
Yeah, well, we entered into our partnership with Florida Citrus Sports during COVID, so I didn't go to the first game that we had. So I would say the second game, when fans were back in the stadium, we were luckily in Florida, so fans were in the stadium, walking onto the field and seeing the presence that the brand had, and just seeing it from the field level. As a marketer, that's amazing to see how your brand is showing up in such an incredible presence, and then of course seeing it come to life on the screen. But nothing really compares to standing on the 50-yard line, looking at your logo, and then looking around and seeing sort of the visual presence that you have in the stadium. I don't think there's another opportunity like that as a marketer where you kind of own a football field with your brand. So there was something really special about seeing that play out the first time we walked in live for that game.
I love that. I love that. Rebecca?
Yeah, I forgot to turn my mic on. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's really kind of it's a bookend, right? So we also entered with Charlotte Sports Foundation for the Dukes Mayo Bowl during COVID. And so that first year was a little touch and go, but we did end up having the Dukes Mayo Bowl. And at the end of the game, while Wisconsin was celebrating in the locker room, they broke our trophy and it shattered all on the ground. So this beautiful crystal trophy falls on the ground. Thank God for Gen Z and for TikTok because someone was filming it. And then also, thank goodness to have the right people in the locker room because someone was also there with a 18-ounce of Duke's mayonnaise in a jar and duct tape. We didn't plan it, I promise. And they taped the jar onto the trophy and basically said, like, here, we fix this. And it was all on social. And, you know, I think it was that moment where we did not plan for that, did not know it was gonna happen, could not have known it was gonna happen. And we were like, oh, this is the adrenaline that we now have to chase, like, as a brand, and the opportunity that comes with some of those viral moments. So it's that, bookended by, in the 2020, what year are we? 2023 Bowl, the ESPN reporter, after Coach Brown, West Virginia, gets dumped in mayo, he takes a French fry. Again, like, why does this ESPN reporter have a French fry? No idea. And dips it into Coach Brown's jacket and takes a bite. So it's like, you know, how it started, how it's going. Favorite moments.
Those are great. Malorie?
You know, I think ours really go back to our company's core values, which are integrity, love, humility, and courage. And we all remember that with the acronym, I love hot coffee. Just perfect for Scooter's Coffee. But our founders, we were celebrating 25 years, and to see their faces come off the ESPN coin toss, Linda Eccles, she defined customer service 25 years ago. She's just, when you meet her, she just is effusive, she has joy, she's kind. And she comes off the field, and I said, Linda, how was the coin toss? And she looks at me beaming, and she goes, I hugged the officials. And I remember thinking, how many times do officials get a hug? I mean, if anyone needs a hug, I think it's officials. But it truly is just to the core of who we are as a company and the joy that she had in that moment, and just seeing them beam and seeing our first national moment, you know, to your point of walking in that stadium and you see your brand larger than life. It really gives you the chills. And then I think from a people leader, just the moments with my team every morning, regrouping, re-energizing. We only had 4 months to plan it. My team had never done anything that large before. And so as a people leader, it was just keeping the team going, energized, and really heartwarming moments in the lobby over boxes of donuts and coffee, of course. So.
That's great. That's great, Malorie. Frank, what about you guys?
I was the same way. I had a family commitment, couldn't make the game, which was good because I sat on my couch, had a beer, ate some Cheez-Its, and got to watch the full game and enjoyed it, which was another way of looking at it. Be there next year. But the highlight for us was simple. Working with Steve in the Military Bowl, our largest manufacturer in bowling is a company called Brunswick Corp. And they're the largest provider of equipment. And Corey Dykstra, I called him up and said, Corey, how would you like to be our representative at the Military Bowl? His son Zeke is a midshipman at Naval Academy. And so he put his whole uniform on, they went out and he was a little bit goosey until he saw the 5 major generals sitting there. And then he kind of straightened up. And you got to kind of see it on TV, and it was a wonderful experience for us. But, you know, we're a trade association that tries to operate as a business. And so, not including the 100 ticket requests I got from volunteers in the state of Virginia and some from New Orleans, and it's just what we do. So we loved it. It was fun to watch those people get to have a lifetime experience due to their trade association and Stretch Entertainment.
That's awesome, Frank. Bryan, what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to get to kind of launch 2 bowl games, so I'll do a quick story of each. But first was the 2018 Cheez-It Bowl in Phoenix, and as Dan said, just to be there on the field and see the branding. But it was a great lesson, and you prepare and you try to have everything ready to go, and you've got these plans, and you have your pregame activation. And then the game happens, and it's totally out of your control. And if anybody remembers the 2018 Cheez-It Bowl, it was the TCU Cal game that I think went into overtime at 10-10. There were 7 interceptions. And the game ends finally, I think, on a TCU field goal. I check Twitter, and the first thing I read is, what a bummer of a game. Those poor marketers at Cheez-It. And I just was crushed. And I turned my phone off and didn't realize that that actually was one of the few of those comments. For the most part, people loved the train wreck that kind of was that first game and all the interceptions. They nicknamed it the Cheese-Int Bowl with all the interceptions. And so actually it worked out really well for us, and it kind of started the way for Cheez-It to kind of embrace just this wacky, fun, crazy game. And so that was a lot of fun. And then my first year here in El Paso with the 2019 Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, got to have my family and kids here with me and to have them get to experience seeing Tony, all of the pregame activation and all that was really special. I don't really bring my family too often when I travel for work, but to have them here with me to support me for that, I'll always remember.
That's great. Great way to start. Funny how these seminal moments at the very beginning often kind of are so memorable, whether it was 19 years ago or just this year for you all. So thank you. We're going to drill down with each of you, go down the line. For Dan, you mentioned the portfolio you guys have, the competitive intensity against State Farm to win the Allstate Sugar Bowl entitlement, but you've got such a broad portfolio. What purpose does the Allstate Sugar Bowl connection serve in your portfolio and your strategy? What role does it play in all of that?
Well, for us, which I would imagine for all of us up here, I mean, the Allstate Sugar Bowl is the biggest brand moment that our company has in the marketplace, bar none. I mean, it certainly is the crowning jewel to our entire college football portfolio, but it is our biggest brand moment across the entire spectrum. I mean, every year when we're doing our integrated marketing plan for the year, it's like, okay, maybe we can, if we're going to launch a message or a campaign or a new product or a service, maybe let's look at Sugar Bowl. Let's do something at Sugar Bowl. What are we going to do for Sugar Bowl this year? That's always the crux of any discussion about what we're doing for the year from a marketing plan is, okay, how can that lead into Sugar Bowl? What can we launch at Sugar Bowl? So it really for us is, like I said, the anchor of our entire marketing portfolio. It's our Good Hands Nets and the Allstate Sugar Bowl is really what our entire, what I believe Allstate's marketing department is built on over the last 15, 20 years. So it's that imperative and that important to us as a brand moment.
Great, that's great. And Diane, you all have built a tremendous approach to the college football season as well. The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl and the Pop-Tarts Bowl, part of it, but you also are involved in the CFP. Can you talk a little bit about that strategy overall, what was sort of behind that and how it's evolving right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We like to say we go from week 0 to the end of the season with Cheez-It. So we're with the fans alongside every moment, the highs and lows, and taking into the excitement of bowl season, with the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl being a key moment to leverage our personality and who we are as a brand. But yeah, we've sort of continued to go deeper in football. It started with a game in Arizona. I know that team is here. And then we moved to Florida, and we've continued to elevate how we partner with ESPN also to show up throughout different moments within the season. So we have been a college football playoff sponsor, but then this past year, we actually added in a philanthropic element, and we partnered with them with Extra Yards for Teachers. And we hired athletes via NIL, and we awarded teachers of their choosing who they felt embodied the idea of feeling the cheesiest. And hopefully you all have seen our beloved spot on a Saturday, you can't really miss it, where Cheese, our mascot, says he woke up feeling the cheesiest. So that energy and that spirit, we wanted to find teachers who made a difference in the athlete's life. So that's yet another twist kind of within football that we've added this year. And then the switch that we made to the Citrus Bowl was a huge level up in terms of the audience that we gained with that game. And we're excited to kind of see what would be next, where would we continue to go deeper. But I think the season-long approach sets a tone for us to show up in bowl season really authentically, and I think has built a foundation for some of the wild and wacky things that we do. And I like to think that we kind of set the trend on in the bowl activation world. Pop-Tarts, on the other hand, it kind of went from this world of being a breakfast snack, trying to break out and be consumed at different points of the day, and saw the opportunity to have like a big brand moment. Like you were saying, it's probably one of the most recognizable or like kind of biggest things that the brand did last year. And then they had to put their own personality on it. And you know, they obviously took wacky to a whole new level with the edible mascot, which I know we're gonna get into. But so their approach is different. They're at that starting line. So they really are in December right now, but it'll be interesting to see how sports moments and eating a sweet snack at that time becomes something that they talk about throughout the year with other sports, not just football.
That's great, Diane. Rebecca, balancing the need for brand visibility and the desire to create those authentic and meaningful connections with your fans and consumers, how do you balance that? How do you approach that? And maybe the role with the Charlotte Sports Foundation, Danny and his team, and Will and Bespoke, how do you approach that whole equation and balance those things?
Yeah, it is. I mean, a sponsorship, right? It's only as good as how we activate it, right? What we're getting out of it, what we are getting from Charlotte Sports Foundation, and then how we're activating it with also Charlotte Sports Foundation and Bespoke and other partners. So, you know, the real crux of it is that you have to participate in experiences that resonate with your fans. I mean, just put your brand into places, and that's really what we do even outside of college football. And with this sponsorship specifically, I think it, you know, again, like we've been saying, it kind of gives another big brand moment. So Duke's Mayo, which I don't know, probably half the people in this room haven't heard of, at least not before the bowl game, was a very regional product. And so with this sponsorship, there was, you know, one, we were in Charlotte. Charlotte was our biggest market, so there was already this like genuine, authentic connection between this bowl and this brand. And then also, Duke's mayonnaise and tailgating and college football are religions in the South. Like, that's, you know, before the bowl game, that's a truth. And then there was also this really great overlap between college football fans, you know, who watch the game every Saturday, who wear the team colors, who have this passion for their team and their players, and the Duke's mayonnaise consumer, who tattoos jars of mayonnaise on their bodies. The amount of requests that I've gotten in 4 years for empty mayonnaise jars because Aunt Sally passed away and her dying wish was to have her ashes put into a mayo jar is kind of crazy. So there's this like rabid fan base that both, you know, college football and Duke's had. So there's, you know, that was kind of the start of it. And then over time, we've taken those truths and just made them bigger, like put them into our DNA. So we trademarked official condiment or official mayo of the tailgate, something we could not have done without the Duke's Mayo Bowl sponsorship. It would not have made any sense. We put the, you know, the Duke's Mayo Bowl logo on our jar in store. We partner with retailers. You know, at the end of the day, we want to sell mayonnaise and raise awareness. So we're in store, we're with restaurants doing activations, and it's you know, it's part of our social strategy. So I think just in general, it was taking this very core truth of the brand and the bowl and then expanding on it in every single way possible in the last 4 years.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Rebecca. And Malorie, this was Scooter's first national branding moment. This was you had a short runway Can you talk a little bit about that and what impact you saw from that first big national branding moment? Because a lot of the folks out here, you know, they're either thinking about renewing a title or finding a new title, and so it's interesting between the futures report, the other thing, and kind of your experience on that first national moment.
Absolutely, and back to Dan's point, you know, this was our biggest branding moment ever. You know, this was the first time we ever hit the radar with a bowl game. We were interested in the Frisco location for the Frisco Bowl specifically for a couple of reasons. Yelp just announced this week we're the second fastest growing brand. We've seen immense growth. We have almost 800 locations now in 30 plus states, and we were able to open our 750th location around the Frisco Bowl when we were all in Frisco, Texas, which the mayor came out, the chamber, so we really ingrained ourselves in the community. But from that national branding moment, first of all, I was on the job 3 months as CMO when the offer came in, and then we had 4 months to plan it. And so you can imagine taking a team, it was absolute chaos, but the best kind of chaos. That is where true grit and really team is built in those moments when you can pull everyone together and say, we want to do it and we want to do this right. We entered the partnership knowing we wanted a long-term partnership, not just 1 year in, 1 year out, and we really wanted to be as good of partners to Sean and to Kristen and the Frisco Bowl team as they were to us. And so we flew down there, did the news conference in July. All of a sudden I had about 1,000 new friends in my inbox that I never knew I had. But you see that immediate activation of everyone who wants your business, your brand hitting that spotlight. It led to the best sales week we had all year during the Frisco Bowl week, which was tremendous news for our franchisees. We were able to take over 200 folks down there and truly treat it almost like a company party to get the involvement and the buy-in. We didn't have enough time to really shift our focus to recruiting new franchisees through the process, but what ended up happening with the tremendous earned media value that we had, the first national commercials, the buzz is over the last, especially 3 to 4 months, we've seen even more emerging franchisees who are bringing up our brand, and now they're specifically calling out Scooter's Coffee Frisco Bowl. You know, we saw you on the bowl, we fell in love with your brand through the commercials and through your activation, and we knew this is something that we want to own, so we've been to locations and now we want to be a franchisee. And so from my perspective, if you're going to enter the national spotlight, there is absolutely no better venue to go into than bowl season, and we have just been pleasantly surprised and very busy, very busy. And so it's been a tremendous learning curve for us, but just a great moment, all things considered. And we're so excited to have more than 4 months to plan for this year.
I love it, Malorie. That's great. We talked last night. I was so thrilled to see your logo and the coffee bean and the football. I just thought that was so cool and natural, and what a great fit.
It came in and I said, no changes. My team's like, let me look at the creative one to get their hands on it. I said, it can't look better than that. Send it back and it's perfect. So we're very appreciative to have that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Frank, for you, I know it's a trade association, it's a little bit different. I'm curious, in addition to the Military Bowl, and we'll get into that in a bit in terms of the rationale for that, but what other properties, sports or entertainment, do you all sponsor and support in the context of trying to serve your members and consumers out there?
Yeah, so we're, as a trade association, we're all about awareness programs. We don't really do a lot of earned media or measured media, whatever the word. We really work on awareness. So we've been in NASCAR for 13 years with a entitlement race. Matter of fact, we were talking about it.
That's right.
Cheez-It left Watkins Glen and we jumped in because of the signage that they had there. You know, bowling is an activity. And so when you just say go bowling, they already know what the activity is, whether it's watching a bowl game or just going bowling. So we went into NASCAR 13 years ago with drivers. We use cars sometimes to enhance markets. We'll use our Go Bowling car. We also are in the Macy's Day Parade as a partner with pretty creative bowling balls and pins that bounce around in the parade. And then after that, we do other NASCAR events where we get drivers to bowl with professional bowlers. We also sponsor and intricately involved with professional bowlers tours, men and women. And so with all those programs, the Military Bowl was a great fit because we are not, our best time of year is around Thanksgiving until about April. That's the core season, even though we do a great business in the summer. The Military Bowl really fell in there nicely. And working with Steve and Rusty and and then being able to make it a little bit more robust by doing some basketball with it and tied in together, it was just an easy sell for a volunteer board of 27 people that might be an 8-lane bowling proprietor from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, to a 20-lane sending operator out of Nashville. And so trying to explain all this to them is not easy. And so, but that's kind of our width, and I've even said, hey, no more for the year. No, we're staying with what we got, but we want to stay deep. And Steve, even though our vote's next week, we want to stay deep because we love the product. And I look forward to how we can help with the Patriot Point and do more things with that and have a partner. And I fall like you, I want a partner. I just don't want to slap a logo on, and I want a partner that's going to work with us, and how do we work together so we both succeed in the end.
Frank, that was great. I am going to ask one follow-up question. In the context of all that, there's a rumor that you guys looked at college bowl games for a number of years. So what was it about the military bowl that really finally got you all over the hump and into the bowl game?
So we looked at we looked at 3 bowls 4 or 5 years ago, got cold called by some ex-NASCAR that went to ESPN, whatever it was. Cold
Those
called us, knew
ESPN
we had the
guys,
money
you
to
know,
do
You
it.
got to get them out of the way, and then you
And
feel
so
better
we did
about
all
it.
that. But the best part is when Rusty finally came to us, and we end up talking, we're relationship people. I want a relationship with the people we deal with. Felt a comfortability to say they can deliver, and they worked with us on how to do it. So we looked at it 3 or 4 years ago, didn't pull the trigger. Actually looked at it 19, didn't pull the trigger. And when this opportunity came this time, and I would also say for Steve, partnering to help military veterans was a big connection for bowling. Is we have a group called the Veterans Link that's been around for 75 years, and 100% of their money goes to help VA hospitals with unbudgeted funds needed to do things at a VA hospital. And so it's just a perfect fit.
Love it, that's great. Bryan, you next. I'm going to give you 2 parts. Again, I'd love to hear your rationale, because I don't know if anybody noticed this, but Bryan's with a 113-year-old startup company called Kellogg that split off from Kellanova. So that's why you see the brand discussion across Cheez-Its and Pop-Tarts and Kellogg's. But I'm curious what went into the thinking and the rationale to get involved in the Sun Bowl and the title sponsorship. And then I want you to, in the second part, to talk about having an iconic brand like Frosted Flakes, but putting Tony the Tiger on the title. So just
Yeah, so it was right on the heels of the successful 2018 Cheez-It Bowl that the head of cereal came to me and said, love what you did on Cheez-It, can we explore this for cereal? And Frosted Flakes has a heritage within sports and had been, I think worked with the Dream Team back in '92, was the longtime sponsor of the Little League World Series. So there's always been that heritage of partnering in the sports space with Frosted Flakes. And their big campaign at the time was Mission Tiger, and it's a philanthropic effort where Tony the Tiger knows the importance of sports for kids and what that can do for them and help them grow as kids. And unfortunately, especially enhanced by the pandemic, middle school sports have been really impacted by that and have had to cut funding, and Tony just couldn't let that happen. So it's Tony's been on this mission to help save middle school sports, working with Donors Choose to help fund for equipment, for uniforms and things like that. So we saw this as a great opportunity to really kind of enhance that platform. And then as we started to look at the games that were available, I think Hyundai was still maybe had a year left, but open to getting out of it. So as we were looking at the landscape of what sponsorships were available, and we started to learn more about obviously the long-standing history of the Sun Bowl as one of the oldest and most respected games, and learning about their philanthropic starts. The original Sun Bowl was a fundraiser to help sports in schools here in El Paso, and so we just love that natural connection, and thought that would be a great fit. What we didn't anticipate is just how much this, and you were all seeing it while you're here, hopefully you saw it last night walking out after the meetings, but just what a warm and welcoming community this is, as you saw everybody walking to support the Chihuahuas to go to the concert last night. And the way this community's really embraced us here has just been something special that we never could have anticipated. So I'm glad you're all here getting to experience the warmth of El Paso. And then as far as the decision to name it the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, obviously we had a lot of debate on that. The Frosted Flakes Cereal Bowl was a pretty easy one to do. But Tony the Tiger's been around a long time and is still one of the most iconic mascots out there. But we had some learnings that maybe he was starting to lose some relevance, particularly with kids, as we've had to change advertising around kids over the years. And so it was important to us to really make Tony the first mascot with his bowl game, with his own bowl game. And so we saw that as a unique opportunity to really help continue to drive the relevance, not just of Frosted Flakes, but of Tony the Tiger himself. And he's really obviously our beloved mascot and a big part of what we try to do here.
I love it. These rationales, the connections of how the company and the brand thinks about making the connection with the game, the community, and the tie-in, the brand, the company with the bowl, the brand with the bowl, the iconic character, Tony the Tiger with the bowl, is really, really interesting. We saw, coming back to you, Dan, we saw earlier the futures report. I know you guys have been doing this a long time. You get a ton of metrics and analysis and stuff, but what are the key sort of performance metrics that you all look at with the Allstate Sugar Bowl? And you've got 18, 19 years now.
That's right.
What do you measure to track the success and to continue to kind of push it?
Number one for us is brand consideration. I mean, we're kind of charged with helping to really fortify the upper part of the funnel. Unaided awareness is crucial for us, but really brand consideration is at the top. And every year, I always make sure our final, we do like 3 or 4 waves of research. And I always coordinate it so the final wave of research is right after the Sugar Bowl, so that I get the best results possible on brand consideration. I go, look at, send that right to the CMO. Look how well we're doing, which is true. Every year, the Sugar Bowl results are, number one. Now the problem is they do my review between waves 2 and 3 and not 4. So I haven't figured out how to work that into the mix yet. But that for us is what it comes down to. Is are we moving the needle? And also we also take measures of all with our NETS program and everything, our media equivalency values and things like that, how we're getting from the games, and it always is top of the line. So that's really what it does for us. Is, like I said, it creates a brand moment. We'll talk about these brand moments, and we want to make sure that those moments are driving consideration and purchase intent all the way down the funnel.
And just to follow up, does it help to have the CEO come to the game? Is it the C-suite?
It always
working
helps.
that always?
Yeah, it always helps. It's been tough. We had Tom Wilson down for the first time in 6-7 years. He's like, I'm going to come back. And so when you can get, and for you, Saw, for years, I mean, we would, before COVID, we were hosting 600, 700 of our agents and the top people at the bowl games. And, it's a big deal. And Tom's given this, we're in a room like this with 700 people, and he's given, this keynote address to everybody. I mean, that's a big deal. But all the executives still come back. It's still, how we showcase our Good Works program. So, but it always helps because it means that it shows his support, and then he's a guy that's always got ideas. He's always like, okay, what if we did this next year? Thinking about this. So it's good and bad, but you always want to have the top brass down there if we can. It just helps cement the whole practice and the relationship.
Love it. I knew the answer to that, but figured it was a fun one. All right, Diane, we saw some video hits this morning that showcased a lot of y'all's brands, but y'all really put on a master class in how to develop a viral moment with the Edible Pop-Tarts mascot, the first ever Edible Pop-Tarts mascot. I'd love for you just to chat a little bit about the thinking behind that, who got promoted with that idea, like just take us through the thinking and how you galvanized your promotional partners, your agencies, and everybody, and your bowl partners to sort of get it and embrace it, and just talk about that whole process.
Yeah, it is a wild idea. So the sell-in on that one internally was kind of interesting. But I mean, we had a lot of learnings from Cheez-It that we were able to apply to Pop-Tarts, and so we did have a little bit of a head start there. So that was a huge advantage. We also had we have the same partner for both of our games, which is amazing. And partnership, as already been mentioned on the stage, is a huge piece of this. Both your creative and your earned agency partners, but also your bowl partner who's going to help you bring it to life. The amount of times that we have pitched something to FCS that's so wild, and they just straight face, they're like, yeah, like, I think we can do that. Like, oh, mascot ziplining in from the top of the stadium? Yeah, that's fine. Like, they're open and they see what it can do. And, you know, I think that's a really special part of it's some of the secret sauce is being open and sort of trusting that your brand knows what's going to hit in social and become viral, and a little bit of trust to say yes and figure it out together. And it's a ton of work, but that's sort of an underpinning of all of these moments that Cheez-It and sorry, I almost said Pringles, my other brand, Cheez-It and Pop-Tarts have had. So Pop-Tarts in particular, a couple things to know about Pop-Tarts. So in their brand DNA, they like to say they sacrifice everything for flavor. So that was a sort of a seed that began with the idea. They had also been leaning back into mascots with their Pop-Tarts Bites innovation over the past 2 years. So in creative, you were seeing these adorably little cute like mini Pop-Tart mascots. So kind of building a brand character a bit. Combine that with the knowledge that Cheez-It has had in the power of mascots, helping fuel those conversation moments and brand moments in the game. It kind of turned to like, okay, what's Pop-Tarts gonna do here with a mascot? And Pop-Tarts, you know, creative direction is this idea of crazy good energy that they bring to everything. And so within that, there is that element of a bit of like, you know, crazy wackiness that they bring to moments throughout the year. And so how are they gonna bring that energy to football was really the challenge. And with, you know, the power of our creative partners behind it, our earned agency really powers a lot of what we do for our bowl games. They came up with the idea of an edible mascot that was the reward for the winning teams, and it created a viral moment at the beginning of the game, but then also at the end of the game, so much so that it actually wasn't, the eating wasn't shown in the game. So it became TikTok's job to fuel that out in the world in social. And so the beauty of actually not showing it in the game, which wasn't what we planned, like ideally we would have shown it on the broadcast as well, but the shareability of it living in social, it went much further than it would have, I think, if it was just in the game. I mean, it certainly still would have lived in social, but there was some magic in the way it ended up rolling out, and how people on Twitter were like, they cut the broadcast before I can see strawberry get eaten. I mean, it was just like the fandom that was then built around that moment was really amazing. So, you know, there's a bit of an absurdity that you need to break through in bowl games, and people love it. They're kind of coming to like love and appreciate like what marketers are bringing to these games that mean a lot to a little, if you think about it, to the teams that are in, but they're just, you want to watch now because you don't know what's going to happen, thanks to, I think, some of the sponsors and the partners who allow those ideas to come to life.
That's great. I'll tell you a quick story. You know, ESPN did a great job, and Malorie Kinney, you know, talked about how they're looking on the social side to amplify these great moments, and it was all really cool. The sizzle video was great. And then when I walked outside, the production guys who are great that I know pulled me aside and they were like, oh, we forgot to mention one thing, you know, it's got to be like organic. It's got to be authentic. You know, we don't just want to, like, it can't be forced. And I go, so the idea of an edible insurance policy mascot, you're not quite there yet? And they were like, yeah, that's not totally.
If I brought that idea to my leadership, I would be the edible mascot the next day. That's where my next job would be.
So good transition on creativity to Rebecca, and I have a feeling I know where this is going, but talk about your strategies and sort of the tactics around how Duke's differentiated its sponsorship, your activations to sort of stand out. You guys did something really unique that's become pretty famous.
Yeah, next we're going to work on an edible trophy. But I mean, the engineering of, so after the trophy break of 2020, I think we kind of started to realize, like, okay, we need to engineer these moments for them to allow them to happen. So they don't all work. I mean, we probably have 15 things, if not more, kind of in every game that we're like, this could be it, you know, if something happens. So we're setting the stage for it, we're allowing it to happen. But I think you're talking about the mayo dump, assuming. on the winning coach. And so, again, game 1, 2020, we knew that we wanted to celebrate this tradition, right? Like dumping Gatorade, dumping something over the coach's head is part of the celebration, and the teams look forward to it, and the fans look forward to it. So we wanted to be a part of it, but we knew it had to be with mayonnaise. And the first year, we could not get the mayonnaise. You have to get permissions. I don't know why, but apparently Bank of America does not want mayonnaise on their field. I have zero clue why. It's just eggs and oil and vinegar. But they said no. So we tried to do just kind of a white Gatorade mix, and the fans were pissed. Like they expected something, and we did not deliver, and they let us know. And thankfully, we had the trophy breaking so that we kind of get back into their good graces. But we were like, we have to make this happen next year. And so, again, with partners and relationships with Panthers and Bank of America, Bespoke and CSF made it finally that we could actually do this mayo dump. And so, again, not on broadcast, it's going to be after the game. And there was the second challenge, which is, what coach is going to say yes to this? Like, what? No coach is going to say yes to getting mayonnaise dumped all over their body. I mean, it's not the worst smell in the world, but it's not the best smell in the world. And, it kind of gets onto your clothes. And so we wanted to sweeten the deal, and it was basically like, we'll give you a donation to charity. So not only you get this mayo dump, but there's also a charity piece to it. The players love it. At the end of the game, before the trophy's even presented, like you already start hearing the players chanting like mayo dump, mayo dump, mayo dump. So it's really just become kind of in of itself a celebration of the Duke's Mayo Bowl, and I think it's why people tune in. And it also allows for moments like the edible mascot, right? Seriously, like just these crazy things that are starting to happen at bowl games. But it's engineering those moments. It's aligning on the goals, it's forming the relationships, and then really being boots on the ground, making sure that we're capturing social content, that we're getting it out, that ESPN has what they need. So.
I want a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
You said ESPN has what it needs. This year, it seemed like they had a lot of extra flavors and a lot of extra opportunity and motivation to sample your product. Talk a little bit about that, because that was really remarkable.
It was, and we saw the two products that were tasted during the broadcast were. It was our best day selling on dukesmayo.com, so record sales, and those two products we basically sold out of them online. So it was a good awareness play, but I mean, I think we all know this. I mean, we don't pay for those integrations, right? They're not required with the bowl sponsorship, but again, it goes to those relationships. So there's a conversation with ESPN before the game. We give them food. Luckily we are a food brand, or at least adjacent, right? So we can bring food to the reporters. The first game there was, Marty Smith eating a chicken sandwich from a local restaurant that uses Duke's. So I think there's a lot of organic ways to integrate the product, but it's also, they're having fun with it. And once they start to have fun and kind of see the return and see their own socials and profiles kind of jump up because they're having fun with this, it just, the next year they're more likely to want to do it again. So I think it's just it's a matter of having fun for the game.
And I love that y'all are willing to take some risk with your brand to let them have fun with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
I love taking risks. Don't tell my boss.
Thank you. So Malorie, you mentioned you were on the job 3 months. You had 4 months of a short runway to get this bowl entitlement up and going, knocked it out of the park with the Coffee Bean Football logo. With all this time you have for this coming year, what do you expect next for the coming year with all this time and experience and insight now?
It's interesting. The day after Frisco is when the planning begins for the next Frisco Bowl. You know, you just start over. But with all of this time, what we've seen emerge the last couple of months in particular are new brand partnerships that would have never been open to us before. And we're certainly hoping for one to align around the Frisco Bowl next year. That would be epic for us. And so, you know, just having those conversations that we've never been able to do with product, because what really shocked us about the bowl, and I think we could have set our expectations a little higher around the want for our product, and we did that in a couple of ways. We built kiosks inside both the Omni and the Westin where the two teams were staying. We gave out free coffee, free energy drinks. One location we couldn't keep coffee in, the other we couldn't keep energy drinks in, and so it was really interesting to see the split in the mix. But what ended up, you know, as a result of that, the teams, the coaches, they were bought into our brand and really making the comments and sampling it. They would even come swing by our early morning meetings to compliment the teams and to talk to them about our brand, which, you know, really was a great partnership and just great momentum and a proud moment to see the teams that worked so hard get recognized in that way. We put product in the stadium. That was our non-negotiable, and thankfully Sean and Kristen at the Frisco Bowl were amazing partners in saying they want to serve their coffee. And it was a little chilly for Frisco, which of course is relative for Texas weather. We went through so much hot chocolate and coffee, and we had actually created a Frisco energy drink, but it was a colder one, and that night was chilly, and so we saw coffee and hot chocolate be the big takers. But just continuing to integrate the product both from an on-air standpoint to have more time for them to be able to have fun with it. Fun isn't created in an executive conference room. Really, you know, no one under the age of 25 should be dictating fun to us. And so when you try to plan for these moments, just leaning in and being authentic, and then letting others take it into their hands, and, you know, taking risks with your brand in an appropriate way, and letting them know the passion behind it. And so I think with a little bit more time, the sky's the limit this year, and it's going to be just great for the team. It'll really stretch them, but it'll be awesome for franchisees and the brand.
Love it, love it. It's such a big impact after year one. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in year two.
We've had sleep. We're good to go for year two now. So 4 months of no sleep, and now we're good.
Love it. Frank, for you, you're chairman of Strike 10 Entertainment, and you run the Bowling Proprietors Association, the trade association for all the bowling centers. How do you work with John to drive the success of the bowling centers and to drive the business and use these entertainment and sports platforms to kind of grow the engagement of what you're doing? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, twofold. I mean, again, we're not a franchise, and so we don't have the same level of customer service at every location. So you might be driving people to a location that might not be great, but 20 years ago, and I've been in the bowling business myself, I still actually own a couple of centers, but I've been in the bowling business since 1982, and in the 80s we were the smoke filled, and we all knew it, and you just did what you did, but with smoking going away, we exploded and we started adding game rooms. We had laser tag, bumper cars, go-kart tracks. I mean, so it's exploded, and as it has exploded as an activity and as a sport, we've piggybacked onto with Strike 10 to how do we get more people through the front door, and we're doing that with these awares. So John's office is right across from mine. I actually did John's job for 15 years and then moved over to this, but their job is to help us get more people through the door. And then the part we don't even talk about, which we need to integrate into next year, is we're also partners. Strike 10 Entertainment represents one of the largest membership groups in America, the United States Bowling Congress. So the United States Bowling Congress has 1 million members. They're the largest member of the United States Olympic Committee. Now, we're not in the Olympics, so we confuse the hell out of people, but we are 1 million members that pay every year anywhere from $25 to $30 to be a member. And so we need to integrate them in to what we're doing at the Military Bowl as well. But as we grow the brand, the easy part or the best part for us is, by gosh, the activity is bowling. It's taking a ball, throwing it down a lane, and hitting pins. And with that, we don't have to get too deep into explaining it. The sad part, or the downside, which really gets me now is, but we gotta have something fun. We gotta figure out what that fun zip line, we gotta figure that fun piece out. And I think we will, and with the help of Steve and his team, we'll figure out, because we have a bowling pin car that was in the parade that, even though it rained, we didn't drive it. We have Mr. Bowling Pin, which if you put him in a parade is unbelievable, but kids love him. But we've got to figure that fun piece out. But that's how Strike 10 works with BPA every day, and really with the United States Bowling Congress on how we grow our sport and get more people in.
I love it. Couple plugs for Frank and Go Bowling. You know, they're sponsoring the studio over here next door, and they've done some wonderful pins for each of the bowl games and partners here. So just make sure you connect with them. And then a number of people have said to us, because we were kind of helping Frank and John on this, seems to be a lot of synergies between Go Bowling and going bowling, going to bowl season. So, I think anything that, and he's really a media property. They got a ton of people going through their lanes and their centers. So if there's ways to connect with your events to benefit your team experience and to get people bowling.
60 million people bowl every year at least one time. And then there's another 14 million that bowl what we call more than 12 times. And, now we've not yet figured out how to get our arms around all that. But those are eyeballs that we can talk to or show things to. So, but the bowling pin has always been a hit. We usually give announcers one. If I haven't meant to tell, it's one of the funniest stories we've ever done. It has nothing to do with bowling, but Smithfield Company was a big sponsor of our women's tour, and I got to know the CEO and the CMO, a guy named Bob Weber. And so I sent them bowling balls. And so we can make bowling balls, and I might do this for you. We make bowling balls that have a smell to them. So I spent Smithfield, the largest bacon manufacturer in the world, 4 balls, and when they opened up the box, the smoked bacon smell came out. These guys went crazy. Frank, and they got me on the phone. We might have to send you some Duke mayonnaise. I'm telling you, I got to go to work on that. But they can make a ball smell. The Storm products out of Utah can make a ball smell with whatever you want it to.
Caramelicious, yes.
Oh, I'm on it. I'm on it.
Perfect.
I love it. 60 million people bowl a year.
Every year. Yeah.
I wonder if any of those people buy insurance or drink coffee or buy mayonnaise, some cereal.
It's amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
It's amazing.
Brian, to take a little bit of attack here, some of the folks here have mentioned the experience of going through adversity around COVID or other things. Can you talk a little bit about challenges you might have had or how you've dealt with adversity and what it means to be partnered with the Sun Bowl Association, just that kind of approach to the property?
Yeah, I mean, we were spoiled with our first one in 2019. Everything kind of went off without a hitch. We had beautiful weather. We had a great matchup with Florida State and Herm Edwards and Arizona State. It was a great game. Just everything went smoothly, and I don't think we realized that that's not always the case. And so then 2020 hits, and most of the games were able to kind of push on and happen. And unfortunately, El Paso was impacted probably more than most communities by COVID at that time of year. And so we had to make the very difficult decision not to have the game. And obviously, that was tough, but at the same time, I think we very quickly pivoted to, it's not just about us, and our heart was with the community that had so embraced us in 2019. So we worked closely with Bernie and the team here to identify, that there's workers here coming off the holidays that rely on some of that income working the game. And so it's important to us to kind of keep them whole. And so I think we probably had some sponsorship dollars coming back due to the cancellation of the game, and we were able to repurpose that to make sure that the workers who didn't get to work the game still were compensated for the time that they would have, because again, we just know that that's something that they come to rely on every year for this game, and we wanted to make sure that they didn't lose out on because of the cancellation of the game. And then moving into 2021, I think there was something else was happening, and we couldn't have our fan fiesta the night before, which is a great event here the night before the game. So I think it's just kind of taught us that you got to prepare for the inevitable things, that are curveballs that are going to happen. And But I think we've always found a way to push on. There was a year we were going through some things at our plants and had to limit our sociability. So it just seems like that every year there's been some kind of challenge, but we always find a way to get through it. And it's great having partners like Bernie and the Sun Bowl Association who help us work through it and identify solutions and just keep moving to have a great experience, not just for our brand, but for the fans and the local community.
Bryan, I assume that strength, I mean, going through something like that, particularly something unprecedented, I assume it strengthened the relationship with Bernie and the community. But
Yeah.
Did it come back? Did you get kind of a return on investment of being a good
I
partner?
don't know that we ever even went back and looked at it. We didn't do any PR around it. I think we just did it because we felt it was the right thing to do at the time, and we truly were committed to being partners of this bowl association and this community. And yeah, having the game and the ratings and all that goes with it is great, but we're not just in it for that. Again, I think the philanthropic roots of it with Mission Tiger was always our North Star, and so even when we weren't going to be able to have the game, it was still important for us to help the community through some very, very difficult times.
That's great. That's great.
Brian, your shoes.
Shoes, I know.
Oh my God, the Tony the Tiger.
These are our Tony the Tiger Pumas
Holy-
that we had done a couple of years ago.
Come
They're
on.
amazing.
That is so strong. The shoe game. I like that. Is that available to all?
They
Sun
sold
Bowl?
out pretty quickly. So when I think it was right around the time that I realized I was going to be kind of moving on from more of the cheese at salty snack side to the cereal side, and so I'm like, I got to quick get on and get a pair before while I can, and I think probably got one of the last pairs.
Dude, where's your Allstate insurance?
I got
shoes?
nothing.
We do have, keep an eye out, we do have,
mayo, I got the smell. I'm like the most fuddy-duddy, fun
we
brand
do
up
have
here.
Frosted
Like
Flakes
nothing, I
and
got
Fruit
nothing.
Loops Crocs coming, so keep
I
an
got
eye out.
absolutely nothing. I want zip lines and edible mascots and all that fun
All right,
stuff.
Jeff, there's your new challenge, buddy.
Right. That's
That
yeah.
edible
what do we do with
insurance
that?
policy
Right.
mascot's going to be. Oh, thank y'all. That was so good. So Dan, speaking of that, you again long-term and newer partners
Yeah,
here.
no, they're having all the fun. This is the fun bunch, and then there's like the old fuddy-duddy. Like I got nothing. It's like.
All right, we need somebody to help Dan and
Right, I
Allstate
need
be
like
fun.
dunk mayo on the Nick Saban. Can we do that the next year? Well, he's not there anymore, but
I was telling Dan,
right, exactly. That's right.
Dan, I came from insurance and thought if I can sell insurance, I can surely sell coffee. So I will send you some Scooters Coffee Crocs
No.
with charms.
I want to be in their brainstorms. Like, have me in your brainstorms. Like, I just want to be part
You
of
are
some of
invited.
this planning.
You are
It's
now
so
a
awesome.
member of our team.
I
know?
think you
This-
should do something super risky at the bowl game that Allstate will cover.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And
Ooh, you
just-
guys are the only ones who would insure something
yeah,
that crazy.
something
Right,
That
yeah.
bad.
All right, let's have a Super Bowl remake and have the electricity go out in the Sugar Bowl. Right, that'll.
Oh, too soon, too close.
Right.
Let's all make it our mission after today to find a way to help Allstate. You know,
Yeah, be more fun.
Be
you
more
know?
fun.
Right, exactly.
well, so I'll ask you, a non-fun question because that's the swim lane we established for you.
Right.
But for the newer partners here, how have you maintained the relationship and the strength of it? Like, what does it take for you on a year-to-year basis, et cetera? Like, what has created the continuity? It's hard to find a 20-year franchise in our business where CMOs change, people change, leadership changes, budgets change, pandemics, recessions come. Like, what created that?
Well, it's like any marriage, right? Both sides have to put in. I think a couple things. We've had the same chairman since 2005 or 2007, who's been a big supporter. That helps. We have this guy right here, and Derek, and we lean on each other a lot. I called Jeff, and our spokesman at the time, Dennis Haysbert. I mean, once upon a time, the refs were the only ones that flipped the coins to start the game, and then our brand ambassador decides he doesn't want to renew with Allstate unless he gets to be the person that flips the coin at the game. Right. And I have to call Jeff and say, Jeff, Dennis Haysbert's not going to renew his multi-million-dollar spokesperson role with Allstate unless he flips the coin at the Sugar Bowl. And Jeff has to go, Dan, the refs are the ones that flip the coins. I'm like, yeah, I've had that conversation, okay, but
But he's fun, Jeff, so roll with it.
That's my fun, right? So Jeff has to make, without Jeff made some, I don't know who you called. I have no idea. I don't want to know who you called. But next thing you know, we got Dennis Haysbert flipping the coin. It was the worst coin flip in the history of sports. It was more like a coin slide. It slid down his arm, but he got to do it. And we don't have that type of going the extra 5 miles for each other. Jeff will call me like, hey, we're thinking about this. We got into a partnership as part of our DEI initiative with entitling the Legacy Bowl. We were talking about that last night. It's kind of like the Pro Bowl for HBCU student athletes. Jeff's the one that helped get us there. So it's being more than business partners. It's being friends. It's being family. It's leaning in on, what are you seeing on your side of the house? What kind of insights are you gleaning? I think that, the Sugar Bowl committee and Allstate, we've kind of become family in a sense, and I think that you have to have that kind of relationship. When we're at events like this, or we're at an SEC summit, or what have you, like we always gravitate towards each other. Or the committee members that we've known over years, we just sort of all kind of fold in together. And other bowl members who've been there, some of you've been there, how do you guys have such a close relationship? And it's like, that's what it's been. It's been that way since day one. We had that with Paul, and certainly now with you and Derek, and I think we're thankful and grateful, because if we don't have that on that side, it makes it that much tougher to continue to demonstrate success, which is what you have to do. We all have to be salesmen, right, to our senior leadership, and when you've got the goods on the other side of the table, that's the engine for delivering success year in, year out. It makes it very easy.
It's great, and we all had dinner last night, thanks to Nick, and I heard a common theme of just listening, and I sense from each of you that you've had bowl partners who are good listeners to what you all are trying to do. Sounds like the case for you, Dan?
Yeah.
Case for everybody here? That's great. Diane, Pop-Tarts and Cheez-Its, the mascots, there's some synergy there. I'm curious about the interplay and whether that's something, how you all are approaching that type of thing. The CFP involvement you have, are you looking at consumer insights to drive some of these opportunities, or are you creating the opportunities? And just talk a little bit about that for you all.
It's like all those things. So I thought you said it really well, is you're engineering these moments, and there is some happenstance. I'll tell you a happenstance. But a lot of it is, it's very well designed in advance. And you might look at 20 different moments and ideas, and you're going to condense it down to the 5 that you're going to put a lot of investment behind to execute. And then that one of them is going to take off more than others. In the instance of the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl last year, we actually had an activation at the game around feeling the cheesiest, which is how we show up in game day with our fans. But people remember a bit more around our Cheez-It Citrus Bowl mascot. His name is Ched Z, holding up a sign that said non-edible mascot. So while we had actually kind of hedged our bets somewhere else, social and conversation led us to see results in a different place. So I think I mentioned before, what we know is the mascots are a key part of college football fandom. They delight children. Adults want to take pictures with them. It's everybody loves a mascot. And it's a very unique way for your brand to show up. So we've had 2 different mascots for Cheez-It over our time in the bowl world, landing with our beloved Ched Z today. We had Prince Chedward before, but he is no longer, and now it's all Ched Z. So when, like I said, when Pop-Tarts was thinking about what to do, it was pretty clear that they did need a mascot in some way, and then they also had other engineered moments within the game. Pretty sure the edible mascot was going to get the majority of that coverage. So I actually was at home during the Pop-Tarts Bowl, getting ready to travel down for the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, and I'm just watching this with my phone in my hand, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is blowing up. And I'm emailing the agency like, okay, we need to make sure we have some plans, and this is really taking off steam. And so, you know, continuing to keep those creative ideas really fresh. We figured we would talk about it when we got down to Orlando and kind of see where everything settled with Pop-Tarts. So we are in rehearsals, and we're playing around with some signs. We have all different signs. Our mascot loves signs. That's how they talk. They can't talk to you. So he has all kinds of crazy signs that he shows during the game. Sometimes they get captured on, you know, the ESPN cameras, and other times not. We actually had a sign that said, don't eat me first. And in rehearsals, we were like, I don't think that's hitting right. And so then we pivoted to non-edible mascot. And it was just this little moment at the end of his entrance that he kind of picked up and showed the sign, like right as he descends back into a giant box of Cheez-Its. That's his home base, sort of during the game when he's not wandering the sidelines. And that moment, if you knew, you knew, and it kind of hit really well because those who are the super fans of bowl season, who are watching all the games for the absurdity and just the fandom of bowl season, immediately put it together. And that was amazing. And so that was planned, but also, you know, nimble, like figuring out what the right tone is based on what had happened a few days before. There are other elements of it that really are on the fly. We actually had a hot tub in our end zone this year. It was part of that other activation that I mentioned. Hopefully some of you saw, but we do know the mascot got a lot of the airtime. And at the end of the game, we're sitting up in the suite with FCS and celebrating our game as we usually do. And our PR team, you know, we're watching them drain the hot tub, getting ready to take it off the field. And Matt goes, what are we doing with the hot tub? And we were like, we're actually just gonna dispose of it. And he goes, no, let's auction it off for charity. So we did. We put a used hot tub that the players had jumped in following the game on eBay, and ended up raising, you know, a couple $1,000 extra for the FCS charities that we partner with. But we got a ton of coverage out of it, of around, you know, a used hot tub from the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. And that's an example of like just truly being nimble in the moment. That was something we didn't talk about going into the game. We didn't even talk about it until I guess we had our first glass of champagne in our hand, when we're like watching the field, you know, get kind of cleaned up from the top of the stadium. So I think, you know, finding those moments in advance is super important. Figuring out how our brands are going to play off of each other next year is a tall task that we have the advantage of time for. Like you were saying, Pop-Tarts was kind of a sprint this year, so we have the whole year to kind of figure out how they're going to play off of each other. But I think that you can't count out these unexpected moments that just happen during the game. And it's some of the things that you just love most about being in this space and in a game is there's kind of always something. And it's worth putting it out there, and sometimes it takes on a life of its own, and other times, you know, it might not. One year the Cheez-Its got dumped a little early. The game wasn't actually over. Like that was a moment that started to travel a bit. So you have to kind of have this keen understanding of what are college football fans going to really love, and it's almost like you're giving them a behind-the-scenes peek of what they didn't see in the broadcast when you share some of those moments. So that's the lens I would put to it, whether it's the edible mascot sign or something like, you know, a hot tub on eBay.
That's great. Rebecca, I'm going to ask you a question, and then if there's any questions from you all, glad to take them with a little bit of time. But for Rebecca, the e-gaming and video game space, NCAA football is coming back. I'm just curious how you all are thinking about those communities, and do you see any opportunities between what you all have done and that? Is that something on your radar?
Yes, it's on our radar. So coming into 2024 season, are partnering with DraftKings, which is esports betting and entertainment, and they're basically a media, they do all that, but they're a media channel for us. And so we have a classic kickoff that we do at the beginning of the season, and then the bowl game at the end, and we'll use DraftKings to gamify those games, which I'm really excited about. I think it's a pretty big bet, you know, and kind of a little bit of a stretch for like that instant return, but it gets us to a different audience. It may be people that aren't necessarily watching the game, but kind of come across it in this, you know, this different space in this app. And it's a prediction pool, so it's, you don't have to pay to get into it. It's not, we're not betting on the game, but it's a free prediction pool where you get to go in and, you know, make some predictions based on what we say, you know, scoring points or getting tackles or maybe a mayo dump at the bowl game, and, you know, just kind of they'll win that way. So I'm really excited about it. I think it's new for us to go into that space. And college football is not really, I mean, it's in DraftKings, but not as much as NFL. So excited to kind of take that leap with DraftKings.
I'm curious, do you all have a budget to innovate like that? And did it come from the company, or where you pitched it, or did it come from your partners, your agency? Like how did that get on your radar, or how did you kind of get that through incrementally?
So we are looking at this as part of our media buy versus bowl activation budget. You know, budgets are so confusing. And, you know, we get a lot of, I think you said it, right? Like, you make a lot of new friends when you sponsor a bowl game. So we have people approaching us all the time about everything. And we really use partners to kind of vet different contracts and proposals and ideas. So it's really a joint effort, because we want to make sure, like, if we go as DraftKings, that it, you know, integrates into the games and other activations, and that we can put support behind it. So it's, ideas come from all over the place. This one happened to be a cold call from DraftKings. Yeah.
Curious, that's good.
Yeah.
Any questions out here for the group? No? Good? Missing? Okay. I will say thank you to everybody, but also I think what we're seeing in general, the presentation this morning from ESPN, the strength of college football overall, the ratings, the interest in it, the strength of these bowl games, the fact that the NCAA officials use the bowl games to innovate and test technology on the sidelines, other things that they then scale out to the members in the regular season and the conferences, really interesting. Hugging an official is a new one, so I'm sure that made Steve yesterday happy. But also ESPN's willingness to experiment, do things. I think they know they can do some things differently with the bowl games that then can set precedent for them. And you know, Kurt, they talked about the new professional football league. They're doing the same thing with. I think the environment's really interesting now to experiment. So it gives all of us in here a little more latitude. Bryan, we talked about CBS, 56 years with the Sun Bowl.
Yep.
A little bit different, how to grow that kind of spirit of innovation that's coming from the NCAA, that's coming from the bowl directors, coming from what ESPN's doing into those kind of things. It's a really interesting time. So for all the headwinds we get, you know, I was going to ask you from a mayhem perspective what you're worried about with transfer portal and all that stuff. But I liked Kurt's tone today when he was like, you know, that stuff's going on, but look how good it is, and it's still really important to them. And I know CBS, you don't keep something for almost as long as the Masters unless it's working for you.
Right.
So just any thoughts on what you guys have seen today in terms of what makes bowl season unique over maybe the NFL or entertainment? You know, Frank, you've done Macy's Parade, NASCAR. Like, what's unique about this environment? Do you sense the experimentation, the willingness to try things differently? Just maybe run down the line to finish up.
Yeah, I think, you know, right, all of that, what you said, but also, you know, what other prominent sports platform can you singularly have a marketing opportunity, a brand moment opportunity that puts your brand at the forefront of consumer attention in a unique way that you can't, I mean, can't entitle the Super Bowl, you can't entitle the Final Four, you can't entitle the Kentucky, at least not yet. And I'm trying to think of what are these things, like the World Series doesn't have an entitlement part, like what are the things you can do? And bowl season has continued to be this evolution of, it's a great opportunity from a postseason college football standpoint, but it's also now because of a lot of the work and the things that the panelists up here, my fellow panelists talked about in terms of unique ways to make your brand culturally relevant. I think that's something that the bowl season can offer, and that the bowls can offer marketers like us, is a way to really culturally connect and be relevant in a way that you can't be in any other prominent sports platform opportunity. So I think that's when I think of first and foremost what it becomes.
That's great. Down the line, Diane.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a unique opportunity where the through the entire line allows you to be fun and playful with fandom. I mean, we talked about the ESPN, element of a bowl game and what's kind of permissible in that broadcast compared to, our sponsorship within like the CFP game. It looks very different. And so it's a unique opportunity that you then can bank on fans loving. I mean, if fans didn't love it and social media didn't love it and earned media didn't love it, it would be a different proposition for us as a marketer. It's not a logo slap, to use your phrase. I use that phrase all of the time. It's truly like an integrated experience where the fans all the way up through production are like on board with you to have a little bit of fun. And for brands like Cheez-It and Pop-Tarts, we only want to partner and show up in places where we can be ourselves. And sort of not be taken too seriously. So the fun element, the fandom, the sort of absurdity that people are like looking forward to when they turn on their TV at like a Wednesday, December 29th, not sure what game is on, and they find that there's an edible mascot happening. That's the magic of bowl season, is we actually saw the viewership build throughout that game because people started talking about it. Like they hadn't planned to watch the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They don't know who's playing, but they want to find out what's happening to Strawberry, his name. So I think that's the magic of bowl season for us as marketers.
I love it. And Rebecca, did Dukes look at other things? Have you looked at other, and did bowl season draw you into it? Or was it all the things you said before, Charlotte, all that? Were there other things you guys looked at and said, we can't be ourselves there, like Diane said?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I came on kind of after the initial conversations, and I've learned a lot. I think that is not a lesson, but a thing you have to realize about your partners is sometimes they don't know anything about bowl season or college football, or and you have to educate, and that's what has been happening for me over the past 4 years. So. But there's this investment piece, right? We could put these dollars into advertising or TV or radio, and the dollars just wouldn't go as far. It's so unique because you get the advertisement, right? You get the broadcast, you get commercials in your bowl game and other bowl games, you get the broadcast of TV. You get the event itself where, we also use our tickets to, have customers and employees and, kind of really build this relationship for internal folks as well around the bowl. And then you have these opportunities for these PR, social content. This investment works so hard, and because it is bowl season, right? And then you then you go into college football season, and then, it just grows. And so you as a brand can really use that maybe one game to build basically like your whole year. I mean, we've kind of all talked about it. Like we're planning all the time for bowl, and it is the epicenter, so.
That's great. Malorie, your thoughts? This has been probably good for the chief strategy officer coming in first year and having all these learnings up here. What's your takeaway from all this?
I wish I would have known this panel before today, after we signed. But, I think that, again, back to your point of investment-wise, if you're going to make a first big national play, and I remember talking to the company about this, and a couple of the comments were, are we that size? Are we ready for something like that? you never determine when you're ready, but dollars-wise, especially in the conversations that have followed once we announced, there is no better investment we could have made, both from the experience, the fun, and the orchestrated moments, to the shoes. We had Crocs, not Pumas, which those are very, very cool, but to the merch around it, to the franchisee involvement, to attracting new people to the business, and to the product that we'll be able to take to the, to the next level. But I also still think, going back to the power of bowl season, there's still pride in where you went to college. In fact, I just think the past couple of days in talking to folks, everyone talks about where they went to college. There's also that pride in watching student athletes go from, little league to high school to these big moments. And so I don't think college football and that emotional connection with it will ever go away. And I think it's just a tremendous place to be for brands who are really centered around love and appearing as authentic marketers.
That's great. Frank, your
Yeah,
take?
a lot's been said. I would just say for us, everything that's said I agree with, but for us to be able to be in print, digital, media for a 6-week period, getting mentioned, and then think of all the markets these teams are coming from, and think of the teams who don't get in but are still following but don't get there. We just can't beat it for our activity and our brand.
That's great, Frank. Bryan, we're going to wrap up with the home hosting.
Yeah, I mean,
Tiger
obviously,
Bowl
it's just a terrific space for us to continue to be in, and there's just something, as we all know in this room, really unique and special about college football and college football fans. And during the regular season, I think fans do tend to kind of just follow their team and maybe a marquee matchup that week. But what's so great about bowl season is you're just drawing eyeballs from everybody, from everywhere, because it's the holidays. Maybe you're off work a little bit, you can turn on a game. Or maybe it's, some of these games that have such great history, like the Sun Bowl, like the Rose Bowl, that people it's a tradition. You watch that game every year. Or maybe you are on X or Twitter or whatever it is these days, and you find out that a mascot's about to be eaten, and now you need to be a part of that. And so it's a really great place for us to be, and then to also then be able to kind of carry on our messaging and our mission around Mission Tiger, and be able to every year make a donation to a local El Paso school during the game and invite them out to enjoy the game. It really works on so many levels for us, and just really love being in this space and hope we can do it for many, many more years.
That's great. And again, you won the shoe game, so well done. I really appreciate all of you. I hope we filmed this, because I thought this was just a masterclass in itself of the relationship of titles to the games, the importance of it. Kurt Darja said it earlier today. Similar matchups wouldn't sniff the ratings that these do during bowl season because of the promotion around it, uniqueness of it, the flavor that you all add, whether it's the good works and the integrity and the purpose beyond the relationship in the game, and celebrating that in football. And you guys are you sort of carry I know we joke about not being any fun, but you sort of carry what matters most about the game, the tradition with the Allstate Sugar Bowl, and so much that you guys invest in the game that's great, the charitable stuff, and the personality and fun you all are adding is kind of a remarkable combination. Nick says it all the time. If you look at the calendar, you can't, to Dan's point, you can't entitle the Super Bowl, you can't entitle the Masters. There's all these things that limit you, but here you seem to be able to do everything. So I love the conversation today. I appreciate everybody hanging with us through this. Not a lot of fancy videos, but a lot of great insights and conversation. Everybody will just, let's give a hand to our title sponsors. Good job, buddy. Nick, group photo. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. That's a big group. We put you in the middle?
Yeah, I'll get in the middle.
Let's put